sure this is just like really close to my mouth. Um,
Well, the closer you get to your mouth, the sexier you sound, Zane.
that's
We gotta
true.
get that sexy baritone voice of yours. Hello and welcome to TwinCast. We are a podcast where we pick up old games, we look at them, we turn them around, we brush them off, and we see if they hold up today. Today we are on an adventure, and we actually have to go back to the mansion. So with me today, as we go back to the mansion here, we've got Clark, and we have to actually try to save the world from Zane. He sprouted some arms, and he's gonna. We got to stop him from taking over the world. So
Yeah, drink some
welcome.
toxic sludge. I feel powerful, more aggressive, like I could take on the world.
Yes. So you know it.
Oh yeah, that's permanently ingrained in my childhood. So
Well, I remember watching that one when I was younger and just thinking it was the funniest thing ever. I don't know what, just something about that when he pops those little two arms out. It's great.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the podcast. As you can tell, we're talking about Dave the Tentacle today, as some people like to call Dave the Tentacle, right?
yes,
I don't think I've heard that before.
You've never heard that before?
Really?
No.
Well,
yeah. A friend of mine, we always used to call it Dave the Tentacle. I don't know why. It stuck. It just sounded like. And then I think I had another friend that actually thought the character's name, well, they thought Purple Tentacle's name was Dave at one point, and yeah.
He doesn't actually have a name. It's just Purple Tentacle.
It's just Purple
right?
Tentacle.
So
Purple and green. Yeah.
yes, as far as we know, it might be Dave.
yeah, it could be. Funny thing about that, because I was talking to you and Cole about Dave the Tentacle, and you guys both referred to it as Dave the Tentacle. And it was funny because I was telling my wife a couple days later, and that we're playing Day of the Tentacle. She's like, Dave? I thought it was Dave the Tentacle. So my wife thought it was Dave the Tentacle also. So a little bit about our podcast. We're kind of like a book club podcast where we do one game a month, and we're talking about Day of the Tentacle this time. Next month, if you want to follow along with us, we are doing Halo. So I'm excited about playing Halo. So,
Combat Evolved.
yeah.
Classic.
But that's for another time. I'm excited to play Halo, but now that it's Day of the Tentacle's time to shine. So why don't we pick it up and let's talk a little bit about what this game is and how we first encountered this game. So I'm going to ask Clark first to maybe just give a brief overview of what the game is, and then let's go from there. So Clark, what's Day of the Tentacle?
Day of the Tentacle is the 8th game that was programmed in the Scum engine, which, if I get this right, I always forget it. Scum engine stands for Script Creation Utility for Maniac Mansion.
Wow.
And so it actually is a sequel to the original Maniac Mansion, which was the first game that was created using that Scum engine. So, and this game was a pioneer. Maniac Mansion and this game too were pioneers in what was called the adventure genre back then. Think of games where you had verb-noun type interactions where you would walk around different environments and you would use verbs to pick up nouns, and then those nouns would become a part of your inventory, and then you would use those nouns later in the environments on other things to solve puzzles.
Yeah.
And that's what this genre was. And like I said, this was the 8th one, and this was actually the first of their games that had voice acting in it. It released in 2 versions, one with voice acting and one without, because it was like right on the cusp where CD-ROMs were becoming
A thing.
well, it was almost mass market enough to justify adding voice. In fact, when they started making this game, it didn't initially have voice acting, and then partially through it, they said, well, actually, we should record some voices, and so they actually did a good job compared to some of the other games at the time. Other games at the time, you can tell they just got like the janitor to come in to record voices. They actually got actors to come in and
It sounds
record,
pretty good.
so-
We'll get into that a little bit more. So Clark gave the intro in the game, but I'm also interested in how we came across this game like naturally in the wild. So that's where I'm going to ask Zane what his history is with this game and how he came across this game.
So, yeah, the classic LucasArts adventure games, I kind of came across them through a buddy of mine, Dan. Dan and I, we were best friends when we were growing up, met each other in like second grade. I spent a lot of time in his family's basement because they had a sweet PC, and I did not have a sweet PC, but he had a sweet PC that could run like some of these games.
Did he have a CD-ROM? He had a CD-ROM and everything?
He had a CD-ROM. I think I think we did actually play this originally on with a CD-ROM. I remember.
Did he have a 486?
Like, we played, like Monkey Island. That was a classic, of course. Monkey Island 2, I think came out before that. I mean, it would have had to because it didn't have any voice acting.
Yeah, those were both before this game, yes.
Yeah, and then Dave the Tentacle came out, and we were very excited about it. I think we actually got it through LucasArts used to do these like bundle like boxes that had like a bunch of different games that were all like together in one box. So they had like TIE Fighter. That's how I got introduced to TIE Fighter, because I wanted to play this like adventure game, but it came with TIE Fighter, which had been released like 5 years previously. So they would bundle up some of their old games into these box sets that I got at Media Play back as a youngin.
Media Play, wow.
Right?
That's a blast from the past,
So I'm pretty sure we got it through one of those. I don't think we actually had a standalone. So we probably played it like after it was originally released. But I remember booting that thing up and being kind of blown away by the intro cinematic and the art style and the voice acting, of course. Like it just the classic like I could take on the world. That was like a childhood meme, I guess, even though meme wasn't really a phrase that people knew. But we would it would come up in conversation. It was like an inside joke. We'd quote Dave the Tentacle quite frequently. Actually.
Dave the Tentacle. Did you have any experience with Maniac Mansion before this?
No. So that was the other thing. Like I know that you can play the original Maniac Mansion inside of Day of the Tentacle if you use the computer in what's his name? I think is it Franklin's room? I forget what the name of that character is. The guy that's collecting all the stamps.
Yeah,
it's Fred's son. Weird Ned? No, not Weird
something
Ned.
like that.
I always get the Neds, Teds, and Jeds, and I get all those names mixed up.
Yeah.
But yes, I know who you're talking about. You can boot up his computer and play the original Maniac Mansion.
And I never did because I was like, this game is like it was too clunky. And I look back at like Dave the Tentacle now, and I'm like, this game's really clunky. Of course, like when I play it now, I play the remastered version. But even then, they've smoothed out a lot of the rough edges. When I play the remastered, I do often switch between like the classic graphics and like the new smoothed out like cartoon like, vector, I guess, like graphics. But
it's like Clark and I, we had our experiences mainly through our friends too, because we didn't have a good computer at all. We didn't have even a CD-ROM on our computer until maybe 96 or 97, so it was later.
Yeah.
So we would go to Tim's house. And
this game came out in 1992 or 3?
3, I think, 1993. Okay. And so we would go and play the Monkey Island games. So we played a lot of games over the Monkey Island games at Tim's place. And we had played Maniac Mansion on the Nintendo.
The NES version.
Yes, we had to use the controller and mouse around with the D-pad. Mm-hmm. Probably the worst way to play it. But
not probably. It was
the worst way to play it. It's not quite as bad as playing King's Quest.
Although it had better music, because there was no music in the original version of Maniac Mansion.
Oh well, I can still hear the little jingle.
It's really good.
Yeah. So when this came out, and correct me if I'm wrong, we actually eventually ended up with this on our computer.
So the way I remember
some bootleg version of it, probably.
Yeah, the way I remember, actually, our friend Gene, who has been on the podcast before, actually had a demo of this game, and that was the first time I had seen it. So I don't know where he got the demo, but demos were a thing back then, and you would see. So I remember seeing the intro of this game at Gene's house, and thinking like, whoa, this is a sequel to that old NES game that we have, and it looks awesome. But then we never played it outside of just that intro. And it wasn't until Tim was sort of our means of getting legally gray area games. Like he just got us a burned disc.
It was a burned disc, yeah.
In like 97, 98. Yeah.
And we played through it. We played through this one later, but I remember really enjoying it. Like Clark said, like the intro is funny and great. Like when you hop in the car and you go back to the mansion, you're like driving around and going all the way up a mountain, but then coming down and coming back in almost the same spot.
It was an intern that did that whole sequence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got this intern from Caltech to come in, and basically it wasn't like going to be an 8-minute long sequence. They cut it down to 4. But yeah, that whole intro is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely sets the stage for everything, for sure. With, like the bird that like flies over and then it like gets sick, and it just like really establishes like the whole feel of the rest of the game immediately, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and a lot of the humor in it is more slapstick, and it reminds me a lot of just like Saturday morning cartoons kind of thing.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because in the developer's commentary they say it's inspired by Looney Tunes. Like they literally like took inspiration and looked at Looney Tunes. There's like specific versions of Looney Tunes. I can't remember which one they mentioned now off the top of my head. Like one of the
Chuck Jones.
famous, that guy. Yeah,
classic like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can totally see it there in the artistic design here and the choices that they've made, and it's honestly made it one of the most visually pleasing adventure games that I've ever played. So I thought it was great. And just like you, Zane, like when I was played the remastered version, I liked switching back and forth and seeing the old school graphics, and I think they still hold up pretty good. I think that there's a cool aesthetic to them and everything. So
yeah, they definitely were able to capture like a lot of curves, and like I think part of the reason, I mean, I don't know, this is just pure conjecture. I was gonna like when I was looking at it before this discussion, I was really taken back by like how skewed everything is, like how extreme, because I didn't remember it being quite that.
Angles are like all over the place.
There's no right angles. It's like full like Tim Burton, like Madhouse style.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, maybe part of the reason why they did that is because it's harder to do. I mean, it's definitely the visual style of the whole game, but maybe the reason why it's so exaggerated is because using like, you only have so many pixels on the screen, right? So like if you want to get those type of like curves or like extreme like juxtapositions or whatever, you really have to like go extreme in order for it to show up on like a grid where you only have so much limited like resolution, right? That's just something I noticed like when I booted it up again. I was like, wow, this is like really like like obtuse angles everywhere. And I love it. Well, it really fits the themes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the visual style it's starkly different than the first game. Clark and I were talking earlier about how the first game, the mansion itself, is actually bigger. There's more, the mansion has more rooms, and it's more to explore, and it's actually kind of a more complicated game in some ways, in that you have to pilot. You choose 3 of 6 characters, and there's many different endings on that game. So it's more of a complicated game. Whereas this one, it's more visually pleasing and easier to step into, and it's easier for people to kind of grok what's going on. I think it's easier for people to step into an adventure game. It's more appealing that way. So,
yeah,
what's kind of interesting is that I was.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Zane.
I was gonna say, I think they learned a lot of lessons from Monkey Island to Monkey Island 2, and like you can kind of see the evolution of their game design style as it goes through. Things become a little more cinematic, a little more, there's a lot more. I want to call them like scripted sequences in the games where like you have. I mean, my favorite part of this game actually is probably the human show at the end with Laverne and Mummy.
We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
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 but it was more moving towards, at least in my mind, when I think back on those games, it was like originally it was just like kind of like individual puzzles, but then as they went more on, it was more like these big puzzles that would kind of all come together into these like events, like kind of these like cinematic little scenes and stuff. Um, so I think that definitely as they got more and more comfortable as a team at LucasArts, like doing these types of games, they had more of like a kind of there was like a language that kind of like transcended through each of the different games, like Sam and Max, Day of the Tentacle, Monkey Islands, like going into Monkey Island 3, all those games, like sort of, if you played some of them, you kind of understood like how the developers thought about things. So it made it easier to get into the other games where I think like a lot of the problems with the original like adventure games is like some of the puzzles were so completely obtuse and like didn't make any sense. Like you have like a rubber chicken with a pulley in the middle.
Sierra Online games were like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
but this game is not completely free of that. Some of the puzzles are a little I want to talk a little bit about the story before we go on to what our experiences are today with the game. But let's just say that I sat down with my 9-year-old daughter, and for this playthrough, I had her pilot everything, and I sat there and watched her. And looking through her eyes, I can kind of see why some of the things would feel kind of obtuse to people today. But for the most part, it's way better than a lot of other adventure games, though. So, yeah. Why don't we kind of move our discussion over to a little bit about the story and like what's happening here in this story. Zane, you wanted to give a little synopsis of what's going on in the story of Day of the Tentacle?
Yeah, so basically the game starts out kind of like we were describing, where there's a toxic sludge pump that's coming onto this river underneath this mansion, and you have these two characters, two tentacles that come up, and it's Purple Tentacle and Green Tentacle, and Green Tentacle is very wimpy, and Purple Tentacle is very assertive, and Purple Tentacle decides to drink some of the sludge, and like we were saying, like two little arms pop out of the sides of this tentacle, which the anatomy of the tentacles, it was always bizarre. They're like suction cups that have mouths, and they have eyebrows, sort of. Anyway, again,
they're cyclops. They're a cyclops. Like one of the tentacles is like an eyeball.
Again, just so like out there, and again, like this intro like establishes the entire feel for the rest of the game. But basically, long story short, Purple Tentacle wants to take over the world. Turns out that this mansion is from a previous game, again, which I didn't have any knowledge of, but yeah, Green Tentacle calls up his old friend Bernard from the first game, who's this like nerdy Poindexter, and he has two college roommates, Laverne and Hoagie, and he discovers that Purple Tentacle, or I think the original like thing that Green Tentacle says is that the professor Edison, was it Ed Edison? Anyway, Professor, the mad scientist, has captured them, and tries to have Bernard come and save them. Bernard inadvertently sets Purple Tentacle free. Purple Tentacle goes off to conquer the world through these funny like newspaper things that come through occasionally about like devious acts that he's doing. And then
he jumps into the time machine.
Yes. So then like he goes off. The only way to save the day is for them to go back in time to prevent Purple Tentacle from ever drinking the sludge. And so your three characters, Laverne, Bernard, and Hoagie, get sent to different periods of time. And then you have to coordinate on puzzles between the three of them in order to save the day.
Yes. You can use the Chron-o-John to send inanimate objects back and forth to the people.
You flush them down the toilet.
So yeah, it's just like any other adventure game where you're going around picking up things, and the way you coordinate things from past, present, and future is you go to the porta potties and you throw them in the John, and the other person could go to the John and pick it up. And so
yeah, because the whole conceit is like they're out of power in the different time zones, right? That they're in, and in the different time zones, they're trying to get power back to the garage, but there's enough power to flush those objects down.
Yes, but you can't put the hamster in there because it's live.
Yeah. That made me laugh when I was looking at this before we were talking, where Hoagie has this line where he's like, "Oh great, I'm 200 years in the past and now the toilet's backing up."
What? Just I'm gonna ask Clark. Which was your favorite of the three characters?
Oh, well, it's probably Hoagie. He's just so funny, like in the as because he's at that point the mansion is an inn for where the founders are drafting
The Constitution.
The Constitution. And so the way he's like talking to the founding fathers, and he's talking to
George Washington.
Thomas Jefferson, like it's hilarious, the conversations, and like he starts calling Thomas Jefferson Tom. Oh, thanks, Tom. Thomas.
Thomas.
He kept going, Thomas.
How about you, Zane? Do you have a favorite of the characters?
I think, well, Hoagie's up there, but I think Bernard, honestly, like there are so many moments with Bernard that make me laugh. Yeah, just like I love how completely naive he is. Um, and yeah, like one of my favorite scenes in the entire game is when he's confronting Uzo the clown. There's so many funny, yeah, he pops him and then Uzo. And I forget, like, you try to interact with Uzo, and Bernard's like, I can't. Uzo's always intimidated me since I was a child. And then you end up, you get the voice box out of him, the ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
That's ingrained in my childhood for sure. So I would have to say Bernard probably.
So I actually this time I had a lot of fun with Laverne. I think it's maybe because I was playing with my daughter, and she thought Laverne was funny. She's like neurotic and like hopping around all weird, and she's just kind of crazy. I thought she was pretty fun too. So
She's got that crazy laugh.
the crazy, like she's a little psychotic. So So yeah, that's the story. Let's talk a little bit about. I know you had mentioned the human show, and I think that might be my favorite part of the game too. So why don't you talk a little bit about the human show and why you liked it so much? That particular set piece.
So it all centers around there's kind of like another character that transcends all three of the time zone or time periods. Cousin Ted, who's a mummy. You never get any explanation for where this mummy came from exactly or how it's related to the Edisons.
He was in Maniac Mansion. There was a mummy in Maniac Mansion
okay.
too.
Yeah,
It was him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can like interact with Ted kind of in these different time zones, and he plays like different parts, like but in the future where Laverne is, you have to through this complicated series of events, you have to go through this human show in order to get, again, like this exemplifies the kind of puzzle like weird thinking that they had. You have to have Ted, this mummy, compete in a like dog show essentially for humans.
Yeah.
And you have to
I guess we should say that in the future that humans have become like domesticated pets for the tentacles.
Yeah. There's a lot of good comedy that comes out of that too. But you have to compete in this show in order to get a prize, in order to free some other humans, basically. Long story short. But it ends up, the reason why it's one of my favorites is because you have to compose all these different elements of Ted's outfit. You have to get the hair, you have to get his teeth, and you have to get some way to make, because like, you're judging him on three criteria: best hair, best like smile, and best laugh. And so the whole like process of going through all these different time periods to get different components in order to bring them together to add them to Ted's performance is one of my favorite things of the entire game, because it has this payoff at the end. It's just a still image that I love. And it's like Ted, like with spaghetti hair, because he has to have like a do these big like horse dentures, and like he's wearing like a Elvis like shirt, I think, and he has this trophy with a certificate in the top of it, and he has this big smile and these like eyes. It makes me laugh every time I see it. It's
I'm gonna put a picture of that
Okay.
like right here, so everyone in the podcast that's watching on YouTube can see a picture of.
Well, and one of the funnest thing about that whole set piece is the judges. The way they like it says like top secret judge area, and you go into there and you sneak into the judge area. And you're like, hey, I think you should judge best smile or whatever. And you do that after you figure out like how to get the horse dentures and put them in there. And they like go in there, and of course, if you don't have the horse dentures, they're like, oh, the mummy's good. Like the way that they're like the conversations they have with each other is just so classic. And what is the name of the other contestant that will win if you don't have the right stuff?
It's Harold, right?
Yeah, it's
Harold.
Harold.
And Harold is just hilarious.
I love Harold.
He's like the purebred
Yes.
dog or whatever.
Well, see, Harold will win no matter what you do, so you actually have to get Harold out of there. So
That's right.
so he's like the prime human. He's the best. Clark, you had mentioned a little bit about how like doing things in different time periods can affect different things like physically in different time periods. Why don't you talk a little bit about that aspect of the game?
Yeah, that's actually my favorite part of the whole game, and you can tell that when they designed this game, they very like deliberately put things together, right? And in the developers' commentary, that's actually where they like once they like narrowed in on the time travel thing, they're like, this is perfect for puzzles, right? Because it just lends to like cause and effect. Like I do this in the past, it causes this effect in the future, and those are my favorite kind of puzzles. So an example is you're trying to get George Washington to chop down a tree to free Laverne in the future, right?
Yeah.
And you're like talking to George, and Hoagie's like, I don't believe that you're good at chopping down cherry trees. He's like, and George is like taking, I'm the best at chopping down cherry trees. If there was a cherry tree now, I would, but there's a kumquat tree instead of a cherry tree. So what you have to do is you have to go out and paint the kumquats red so that George thinks that they're cherries, and he chops down the tree. And then in the future, the tree where Laverne is at disappears and she gets freed. So that kind of cause and effect. And there's just some really... just real quick, my other two favorite ones is you can't flush the hamster, so you got to put the hamster in the ice chest.
Cryogenically freeze the hamster.
Yeah, so the hamster is frozen for 200 years until you can get it into the future.
Now, Zane, do you remember what you have to do when you pull him out in the future?
Oh yeah. So it's funny. There was a long period of time where I hadn't played the game, and then the remastered version came out, and I picked it up, and I played through the entire thing without breaking a beat. That's how ingrained in my mind all this was. But yeah, to get the hamster unfrozen, you take this hamster as in an ice block, and you put it in a future microwave that Laverne has. And Laverne, I think her line is something like, "Oh man, I hope that these aren't like the primitive microwave ovens of my time. Those could really pop a hamster good." And
she actually lectures to you about not microwaving hamsters.
Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but that's a reference to the original
oh, really?
It is.
Maniac Mansion.
Yes.
Yeah, because in the original Maniac Mansion, you could still Weird Ed's, I think it's Weird Ed's hamster in that, and it was censored in the NES version. It wouldn't let you do it in the NES version, at least later NES versions. But in the computer version, you could put the hamster in the microwave, and there would be a little animation of a pop of the hamster. And if you went into his room after doing that, he would kill you. You would, there would be you would be put as a gravestone in the front of the mansion.
Yeah. She lectures you. She's like, children that put hamsters in microwaves get put up for adoption. So don't do it.
Yeah, it's definitely a callback. So yeah, that is a cool use of that. Were there any others you wanted to
Just the one last one. It's just so funny because you actually have to use the hamster to start up the power in the future. But he's still wet and soaking from being thawed. And he won't run on the little wheel to power your Chron-o-John. So you have to get him a sweater, but the only sweater that you have is giant. So this is just so funny because you go and you put it in 200 years in the past, you put it in the dryer. But you notice that as you're exploring the mansion in the future, the same dryer is there. So if you use the crowbar on the vending machine, you can pull out just mounds and mounds of quarters. So you put the sweater in the dryer, you put in all of the quarters. It just it does a time jump. It says many hours later, you're just putting in quarters. and and then as soon as you switch to the future, you go into there and like it shows the dryer still running 200 years,
And
in
then
the
it goes
future.
ding.
And it goes ding right as right as you get there, and you pull out, and it's just a little teeny tiny sweater because it's shrunk in the dryer. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. Did you have any examples of that? The
Yeah.
changing things in the past to make
so,
things
for the time
that you remember?
puzzles, the one that like always like that I remember because it's like really early on. It kind of like teaches you how that mechanic works. Is you have to get vinegar to create the super battery in Hoagie's time, and so you find a bottle of wine and you put it in the chrono, or yeah, like you put it in a safe or something. I forget exactly where you put it. But
No,
you
it's
put,
he's got a
Time capsule.
time
Oh, yeah, time
capsule that he has the wood in there.
yeah, so you put the wine in there, and then in Bernard's time, it turns into vinegar. And you set it right back to Hoagie, and then Hoagie's able to use it to create the super battery. So yeah, and then of course there's the whole Betsy Ross is in the mansion and working on the American flag, and you end up getting designs for it's like a windsock. It's either a windsock or it's the
Well, it's supposed to be a flag, so
Yeah.
like she's doing flags, and so you give her designs in the future because there's like in the medical option office.
Right.
Yeah, there's like a medical
Anatomy,
thing of
yes.
of a tentacle. Yeah.
So you give
And so
that
you
to
take
her.
that, you give it to Betsy Ross, yeah, and
And
she
then-
makes a flag out of it.
And then in the future, you end up getting the flag off of the top of the house that's shaped like a tentacle. And then you can put it on and use it as a tentacle disguise. It's so good. Yeah, it's hilarious.
So that's one that my my 9-year-old daughter actually kind of figured that out by herself, and you could see her like light up and like it creates that moment and like, oh, this is why you like adventure games, because you get to unlock these little puzzles, and it gives you that burst of like, I'm smart. Aha, look what I did. And so I could see, because she would thought it was so funny and laughing that you were walking around in an American flag tentacle thing. she was so,
And none of the tentacles expect that you're a human.
yes.
Yeah, in fact, one of the tentacles says like, "Oh, what's a hot babe like you doing here?" At one point.
So I just wanted to just kind of wind down our little conversation about this. Just talk about like our experience playing it now as compared to how it was back in the day. I'll go ahead and start here. Like I told you that I sat down and played with my 9-year-old daughter and played through the whole, and had her like at the computer doing the mouse and everything and having her do everything. But I just kind of sat there and kind of prodded her a little bit and kind of showed her how to do it. And it was really rewarding for me because I could see that for a 9 and 10-year-old, these kind of games are actually pretty good. I mean, how old were you when you first played it,
I was
Zane?
right around that
Were
same
you-
age. Yeah, I was like 9.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good age to start playing these games. And she got it, and I all I had to do was give her a little hints here and there, and like things like, hey, notice how there's a right-handed hammer and a left-handed hammer? Maybe that's important. Things like that. And then she got it and it clicked, and you can see it, how cool it was for her, and it kind of brought me back to like when I first played these games, and how whenever you solved these puzzles, it made you feel a little bit good. And so I had a really good time playing through with my 9-year-old daughter this time. So, Zane, how about you?
So
with
my
your more
experience
recent
is just, like,
playthroughs?
just pure nostalgia. Like I mentioned,
Mhm.
when I played the remastered version, I had zero problem figuring out every single puzzle, which is interesting because I think there were other adventure games I played more. Like I think I played Monkey Island like the most of like any of those old classic LucasArts games. But there were parts when I played the remastered version of it that I like kind of got stuck, or like I didn't quite remember how things fit together. But I think just because Day of the Tentacle was so unique, and so many of all of the puzzles are jokes. There's no puzzle that's just like, oh, it's a puzzle and you open this thing. It's all like there's a punchline basically. It's like puzzle punchline, puzzle punchline. And so it really like stood out in my mind like how to actually solve everything. Like you're talking about like the tree, like you have to paint it in order to get it cut down. Like that stuff's like super memorable. So it was really fun replaying it because I both got the satisfaction of like, oh, I know how to do all this stuff, so that was nice. But
Yeah.
also, I like rediscovered jokes that I had completely forgotten about, and I would remember them as I was doing the puzzle, and be like, oh yeah, this is hilarious. I can't wait to see, like, I can't wait to see that screen of Ted with the trophy. Yeah, just real great stuff.
Like you said, I really do think that that's the pinnacle of the game is that with Ted with the trophy. How about you, Clark? What stood out to you this time?
So I don't think I was quite ingrained to it as Zane was. I probably remembered about 60 to 70% of the puzzles, and I played the remaster version. I actually had the remaster version on PlayStation 4. That's when it came out in 2016. So back then I bought it and I played through it in 2016. I haven't played it for about 10 years. And it was really fun to sit down and play. Like I think I think today it's a little bit hard to get into adventure games, right? Like cuz you don't really play like there's not action oriented and you don't play a lot of these kinds of games anymore. So it's a little bit hard to like to boot it up and get yourself into the groove of playing it. But I found as soon as I like had been playing it for 15, 20 minutes, just the inertia just pushed me along. And I found myself just like you guys, just really enjoying all of the jokes. There are a few of the puzzles where I didn't quite remember or like I missed picking something up. And I'm like, I don't have a lot of patience for this. And so I would like try things for 10, 15 minutes. And if I couldn't figure out, then I would pull up a guide and real quick. And anyone who is looking to play this game for the first time, I would recommend that. Like, don't be like us when as kids where we would like spend hours clicking on all the different things in the environments.
Yeah.
That's not the way to play these games anymore. Like Zane said, like you want to like get to the jokes. So, do what you can, pick up all the stuff in the environments that you can. You can usually kind of figure it out. And for when you can't figure it out, I'd recommend just looking at a guide and getting that payoff, not spinning your wheels too long. Like there's one of the um, most annoying ones, and I actually remembered this because I got stuck on it in 2016. Is you have to go into the room with the sleeping guy in the present, and you have to close the door, and there's keys in the doorknob there.
Mhm.
Like I remember back in 2016, like going around forever, like trying to figure out like what to do because I was stuck. I couldn't figure out how to get the guy away from the car because you need to give him the keys. And so, there's a few things like that that still are a little bit warts, I think. Like you shouldn't get stuck on some little thing like that. But otherwise, with a little bit of hints in it works really well today and really fun.
Yeah. Well, I think it's maybe time to kind of wrap up our discussion here. And what we usually do, Zane, with these kind of games is we give a grade on how we feel this game holds up today as compared to like maybe other, like, is it worth our time playing today? And you put a grade on that. So we go like 6 would be like the highest you can go. If you're going to give the game a 6, that means it's like it would be game of the year today. So anywhere from there all the way down to like a 0 where it's like don't even waste your time. So think a little bit. I'm going to ask Clark first to give his grade on the game and explain why, and then I'll give mine, and then you be thinking about what grade you want to give it there, Zane.
So I think that this game is probably like the pinnacle of most adventure games. One of the games that we talked about for this podcast sometime last year was
With Cole. We talked with Cole.
Oh yeah, with Coleman, was King's Quest V. And this game is not King's Quest V isn't even in the same league as this game.
This game's way
talk
better.
about esoteric games. So if you're gonna point someone to an adventure game, like a retro adventure game, I would have a hard time recommending any other game besides this. That being said, I do think there are limitations to adventure games. And the comedy still holds up, but the structure of trial and error and stuff can be a little bit, for today's audience, I think, can be a little difficult. So I think that's really the only thing that brings it down. And so I would give it a 4.
4, that's pretty good. I'm going to kind of echo a little bit of what Clark's saying here. It kind of depends on the person's sensibility for adventure games. Do you like this kind of game? They don't really make many big adventure games anymore, not that I'm aware of.
Double Fine is still around.
They do. There was the people who made Maniac Mansion made an adventure game a few years back.
Thimblewood Park.
Thimblewood Park. Did you play that one? I don't know.
Didn't. Yeah, I've kind of followed Tim Schafer's stuff a little bit, but I haven't actually really played any of the new games. Yeah.
I might need to check that out to see how they kind of modernized the adventure game series. But I mean, it's still around. But as far as holding up today, I think it does a pretty good job. There's a few things that keep it from doing it, so I'm going to give it a 4.2. 4.2.
There's also Psychonauts just had a release too.
Psychonauts.
So
too.
yeah, Double Fine is still around, and they're still releasing some games. I haven't. I guess this is showing my. I haven't played those, and I probably should. But
all right, Zane, what's your verdict on this game?
I would say, I originally was gonna say like a 5, but with the consideration of like a modern audience coming to it, I think it's kind of the context that you're coming at it with. I don't think modern audiences are gonna like really dig into it in the same. They just won't have the patience. Because like when we played it, right, we were kids. We had tons of free time. They're also like we didn't have Steam. We had a selection. Like I was talking about, like a media play. We had a certain number of games we could play. They were all very expensive. So when you bought a game, like you definitely want to sink your teeth into it. So I think like a modern audience with so many other options out there, probably put it like a 4, even slightly below as far as recommending it to like if I was recommending it to like someone that was like Gen Z, like I would just
like a 3.9.
Like a 3.9. I would say like for everyone out there, if you've listened to this podcast and you don't have access to the game or you just don't have the patience for the game, just go on YouTube and watch like a playthrough because it's so funny. There's so many great jokes. There's so many great characters. There's so many great moments. That it does deserve to be seen, and if you're inclined, like definitely play it first because all those things will be that much more rewarding when you do unlock them. But I would say like for any like Gen Z kid out there that like I wouldn't recommend actually playing it to, I'd absolutely say like you have to check this out because it's just as good as like classic Looney Tunes. It's kind of timeless in like a way.
Yeah, and so that puts the average right around 4. So I really do think that this game has a lot of merit. Like I said, my 9-year-old really had fun playing this game. And I remember back when the remaster first came out, I played with my other kids, and they really liked that game too. So in fact, with one of my kids drew like all these cartoons of the tentacles and stuff like that. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and put it up here. It's the Purple Tentacle with his arm saying, "I'm going to take on the world." So I really think its charm and stuff can hold up. You owe it to yourself to at least check out a playthrough of this game. So, any other final thoughts on Dave the Tentacle?
No, I mean, like Zane said, if you don't have access to it, you can get like 90% of the satisfaction just by watching a YouTube video.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Zane. It's been great talking to you.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me on. I always love talking about this old stuff. Like these games, those LucasArts games, have a very special place in my heart because I think a lot of like my early humor like really did come out of some of these games, like Sam and Max and all of these. So happy to talk about it. Thank you for having me on, and hope you guys both have a great night.
Okay. Thanks, Zane. See you guys.
Yep.
See ya.